So here to talk more about the impacts of climate change is Wildfire Manager with the state, Rocco Snart. Good morning, Rocco.
Good morning, Corey and company. How are you?
He had to unmute there, the Zoom, huh?
Yeah. Oh, Zoom.
Oh, Zoom. All right, well, let's start here. Colorado is very dry. How does that impact the wildfires here, and what are you seeing?
Colorado is an inherently dry state, right? So, but depending upon the moisture that we get throughout the season from snowpack and spring weather systems, which is very important for our early fire season parts. The southwest monsoon plays a big role for our traditional, what we used to call the traditional fire season in June through September. And sometimes with the robust moisture, like in 2021, we see more of an average fire season as opposed to, say, in 2020, where we saw very little moisture throughout the year, and we went through some extreme drought and ended up with lots of dry lightning and other causes for fires, and the season inherently ended up running into November, right?
Yeah. And Rocco, so what big changes have you seen in the way that you fight wildfires just in the past 5 years?
In Colorado, we've been extremely fortunate with the legislature and strategic planning to enhance a variety of resources that are available to assist Colorado agencies, more boots on the ground, firefighters, engines, aircraft, both helicopters and air tankers to support Colorado agencies, all, trying to keep fires small. We've been able to position these firefighters and engines around the state to assist our local fire departments, et cetera. And we can move them around based on areas of highest fire potential, which we're constantly monitoring throughout the year. We have more tools now to map and detect wildland fires while they're small, and to get information to agencies so they can get out there and fight fires and manage those appropriately. So they can prioritize the fires if there's multiple fires with staffing, et cetera. And we have our multi-mission aircraft program that is really good at going out and helping locate lightning detections and other small fires that are really hard to track down. We have a new platform called FireGuard. We're really working with our Center of Excellence to work with unmanned aerial systems and, think drones there, and researching camera platforms to put out on the landscape to help us pretty much have a really 3D view of the environment. Now that we're experiencing fires, that we're, in mountain pine beetle stricken forests, we're working on ways on how to, better manage those and suppress those, right? Most of those are in really steep, rugged terrain with poor access. So it really makes it hard for us to find opportunities to get in there and suppress those fires.
Mm-hmm. And Rocco, these fires are expensive too to fight. How does climate change contribute to the rising cost of these fires that we see here in Colorado?
Obviously the economic impact to local communities, businesses, et cetera. But with the year-round fire season, the fire year, as Captain Finnegan alluded to there, we are contracting aircraft longer. We're keeping our seasonal firefighters on longer. So obviously there's more budgets, that have to be accounted for there. And just the duration of some of these incidents are just really driving up the cost of fires as well. When the right conditions align with the extended drought and less than average precipitation amounts, as mentioned before, there are lots of fuels available and more ignitions across Colorado. So then you end up with more fires, more acres that are on fire, and longer term fires. Think Cameron Peak and how long Cameron Peak went on, East Troublesome, yeah. And, some of those, and Pine Gulch, some of those really long duration fires, they really drive that cost up. So, we expect that with, like Captain Finnegan alluded to there, just fires this week, right? So this is November, and we shouldn't be thinking about large wildfires, but that just continues to keep draining budgets and personnel as well, right? So think about the wear and tear on our people that are out there on fires.
Yeah, it really is all hands on deck. You know, obviously this is a big conversation and something that Coloradans are really in tune to, because again, we can see wildfires start at all times. We had one on Super Bowl Sunday a couple years ago, and here we are in November, and they were just out of wildland fire. So this is a really big conversation. Rocco, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Thanks.